We will have a presentation by Actual Object, or more precisely by Claire and Rick Farin. They are the co-founders of the studio Actual Objects. They are going to present their creative collective and their practice. It's going to be followed by a short Q&A. And that will be followed by a lecture by the famous graphic designer Linda van Dursen. After that, there's going to be a conversation between two philosophers, Mladen Dolar and Peter Zendi. So this is a kind of a break in between the design program. And then the design program and the music program overlap in the audiovisual extravaganza, which is going to be on this stage by Rick Farin and Actual Objects. This will start at 10. It will be followed, and the evening will be concluded by the performance by Igloo Ghost. So there's a lot of going on, and I hope you stay. So, with all that away, I'm going to introduce our first guests. So if you go to their website, on their About page, the description is as follows. Actual Objects is a creative studio. Pretty much that's it, short and simple. Elsewhere, if you Google, they are described as, and I quote, the collective of directors, artists, researchers, and producers who use emerging technologies to construct radical new aesthetics and hyperrealities. That's the end of the quote. Rick and Claire Farin are, together with Nick Vernet, the co-founders of the creative studio Actual Objects. The studio was co-founded in Los Angeles in 2019, and each person came from a different discipline, such as architecture, painting, and music, respectively. So this is what I mean about these cross-pollination of different things, of which design is only one part. The trio also has shared interest in the computer graphics. Since then, the studio has grown into a roster of directors, artists, researchers, and producers. They work at the intersection of live action, computer graphics, artificial intelligence, visual effects. The duo has been the creative force behind forward-thinking and future-proofing projects for artists such as Yves Tumor, Earth Eater, Bad Bunny, Charlie XCX, Caroline Polacek, VTSS, Sega Bodega, A.G. Cook, and institutions such as the Museum of Modern Arts and so on. Recently, they've been both featured in the Days magazine's 100 list, and they premiered their first gallery installation, Vicky, in collaboration with Case Miller at 100 The Strand in London. Also, tomorrow, right, is going to be the launch of the first album.
Yes. Well, the announcement of the record.
The announcement is going to be launched tomorrow. The album, or the actual performance where the album comes from, will be later on at 10 at this stage, so stick around. In short, please give a warm welcome to Actual Objects.
Thank you.
Whoa, look at that.
Wow.
So, hey everyone, my name is Rick.
I'm Claire Farin.
We're Actual Objects. So we're just going to give a little bit of a brief history here. So AO is a creative studio that operates across various disciplines with a particular emphasis on emerging technologies and experimental practice. We work in both commercial sectors, such as music, fashion, film, TV, live experiences, kind of any sort of content, while also producing our own artworks and films, and if you're sticking around for later tonight, music as well. He already listed off all of our collaborators, so I'm not going to do that.
We won't do our collaborators again.
So if you want, here's a kind of list of a bunch of different clients we work with. As you can see, it varies from cultural clients and magazines, musicians, car companies. We kind of run the whole gamut here. And we really work across creative direction mainly, but we also do a lot of VFX and photography, animation, experiential design, creative consulting, kind of everything.
Yeah. So to provide some background, I trained as a painter and initially became interested in CGI as a means of generating reference images for my work. I found sourcing references tiresome and tedious and was drawn to the ease and limitless possibilities that CG offered. And I was also intrigued by the intersection of emerging technology with one of humanity's oldest forms of expression. So this duality has become one of the foundational principles for us at AO. While we're best known for our tech-forward practices, we also incorporate traditional media with references to art history and film.
And then for me, before we started AO, I was primarily an electronic musician. I was training to be an architect. I had an old project called Eves. And, a lot of the music, I think, informed a lot of what we do today. It was very sample-based, used a lot of kind of cinematic sound effects and things like that, and I think it kind of informed a little bit of what we work on today, this kind of remix culture, this sort of, disfiguration, disrespect for kind of the original source. And so we'll get into that as we get into more of the work.
So in discussing the balance between our commercial and personal practices, we tend to operate within a seasonal rhythm. So our busiest commercial periods typically occur in the fall and spring, which allow winter and particularly summer to serve as a kind of fertile ground for advancing our personal projects. Within our personal practice, we maintain an approach that includes both long-term endeavors and shorter, more immediate works. So for instance, this past summer, we concentrated on studio-generated projects that have been in development for several years, like we're working on a film and a book, while also dedicating time to Rick's album, my paintings, and the AV presentation we'll be showing tonight. So we kind of will move through as much personal work as we can during the seasons that are a little slower with client work, and then abandon all of that, go full throttle into client work. And we find that these two realms, commercial and personal, are not isolated from one another entirely, but engage in a continuous dialogue. Concepts that germinate within our personal work often inform our client projects, while the challenges posed by the commercial work often compel us to expand our technical capabilities, which results in processes that enrich our personal practices. We've discovered that this interplay is really profoundly symbiotic, and one kind of can't exist without the other for us.
So yeah, moving into this lecture, we've called it Dead Figures. And it's definitely what we're trying to do is look at some of our past work and kind of the show that we're doing tonight through the lens of what figuration might mean in the context of digital art. I think, the performance tonight involves a lot of faces and people and things like that, and so we wanted to kind of reference our, the work that we've done through this kind of digital human lens. So as artists, we've always been fascinated with figuration. Obviously, Claire was a painter, and I think we are interested in it, in the idea of it in relation to digital caricature, and how this idea of exaggeration of the human face can produce sort of a kind of severe emotional response. Where a lot of our initial work came out of the idea that came from Ed Atkins, who's I don't know if you guys know him, he's a contemporary artist, and he had this idea of dead men with his CG characters, that kind of a CG character was neither alive, it was neither dead, it was kind of this bodiless thing, and so we call this lecture Dead Figures because we're looking at a lot of CG, AI, different kinds of characters.
So the uncanny valley is what first attracted us to digital work in the first place, specifically digital people. We find that lurking within the uncanny valley is not only horror, but there's also this palpable beauty. Digital figures evoke a sense of humanity that challenges our perceptions of individuality. I'm sure many of you are likely familiar with the concept, which originates from robotics and artificial intelligence. It was first coined by the Japanese roboticist Masahiro... Louder than we expected.
Sorry.
It was first coined by the Japanese roboticist Masahiro Mori in 1970, and describes the discomfort or eerie feeling that people experience when they encounter a humanoid robot or a digital character that closely resembles a human but is not quite lifelike. This phenomenon suggests that as a robot or a character becomes more human, our emotional response towards it becomes increasingly positive, until it reaches a point where the likeness is almost perfect, and it's so close but still has these subtle imperfections. And at this stage, our response can shift dramatically to one of revulsion or unease, hence the term the valley, illustrating this dip in the emotional response. So this video...
this video is from a music, it's a snippet from a music video that we did for the most recent record.
Yeah.
And this, yeah.
Oh, right. This video is a small snippet from our performance later, which kind of sets the stage. It's an old woman, tired, blurry, and pixelated to the point of near illegibility. There's history to her face. Her movements exhibited a distinct lack of subtlety. She's clearly digital and artificial, and her blinks and head turns are obviously digitally manipulated and generated. There's this lifelessness, or the quality of deadness to her, that's just incredibly unsettling. Unlike real people whose scars or injuries or beauty elicit visceral human responses such as empathy or jealousy or disgust, digital representations operate on a completely different plane. They offer this disturbingly unsettling yet completely artificial experience, which allows us to engage with emotions that feel both genuine and fabricated.
I'm going to mute this next one a little bit because it's pretty aggressive. So this is an earlier work that we did, I think in 2021, something like that, for Hood by Air, a fashion brand. And it kind of was one of our foundational pieces, and really speaks, I think, to these uncanny qualities. The dynamic between genuine and fabricated emotional responses recalls this tradition of caricature, where exaggeration reveals deeper truths about human nature. In this sense, digital figures, particularly those rendered with the hyperrealism of 3D CG, or now the AI and generative AI, compel us to confront our emotional reactions in new ways. They can trigger fear, sorrow, or sympathy, intense human responses, despite being completely artificial. You can hear the music real aggressive. So moving from that, the realism of these digital creations, devoid of a real actor as seen in traditional cinema, invites a unique exploration of empathy and alienation. As we engage with these figures, we grapple with the ethics of our emotional responses. Are we projecting our feelings onto something fundamentally hollow, or does the digital human serve as a mirror, reflecting our desires and fears back at us? These are some unreleased stills from the art book that we've been working on. And the book is kind of framed as this portrait book, working with more normal photography, AI, CG, the whole kind of
painting, all of it.
Yeah, the whole thing again. Yeah.
So moving into this video, this is a piece we made for ourselves this year, with a 3D character reading a monologue from the film Pearl. It was an exercise in testing the limits of what we could achieve in CG cinematically. The character is fully rendered in real time in Unreal Engine. You can listen to it for a sec.
Yeah, I can play a little bit.
I'm so desperate to have that. All my life I've wanted off this farm, and you were my ticket out. So, I made sure to never let you see who I really was. I worked like a charm, too. Then, when you finally brought me back to your home to meet your family, it was just as I hoped. Life straight out of the pictures. At least that's what it felt like to me. You didn't want it.
I can do a little bit.
You just wanted to stay here with our farm.
So, that I think we're kind of testing what the boundary of what we're currently capable of, as in Rick and I, not Hollywood, the boundary of realism that we're currently capable of kind of reaching. So this idea, you know what, we kind of skipped over it. That idea of kind of violence in one of the things we've been talking about is the idea of violence that's kind of embedded in these CG characters and digitally manipulated characters and digitally created characters, and the idea that there isn't a real person there. So what do you do with it? How much responsibility do you have to this digital creation? This idea of violence kind of is echoed in Marina Abramovic's classic performance, where she invited audience members to engage with her using instruments that were left in the gallery. Woo! Oops.
It's fine.
It's just my phone. While they had the freedom to interact with whoever they chose, many of them chose to violate her, exposing this dark facet of human nature. So as we navigate the realm of digital figures, we find ourselves in a similar position. The absence of a real person means that we're free the absence of a person means there is no direct victim, raising the profound questions about our desires and responsibilities. Are we inclined to exploit these figures simply because we can? Should we treat them with respect, considering they can evoke real emotions and real responses? Do you play Grand Theft Auto and obey all the traffic rules?
So moving to more of our work, this is probably the first piece that Claire and I did together that was, in CG. So, one of the first projects we ever did together was this film called Welcome to Paradiso. It's for a musician named Chino Moby. He's also a visual artist. And it was a companion piece to his album, Paradiso, in which we created this kind of lived-in world for the record. It's epic in scale and cinematic, focus on this idea of a post-American wasteland, full of voices that scream, sing, rap, recite poetry, in a multitude of accents and cadences, juxtaposed against movie trailer level cinematic effects and synths. So I'll let this play out a little bit.
Welcome to Paradiso. You are now listening to On Worldwide Radio with Chino Amobi.
So the next two projects we want to speak about are two fashion campaigns that we did for Marine Serre, and they were, very much initial explorations into these uncanny ideas that we've been talking about. The first being this one titled Radiation, is fully animated, and the other was a hybrid. To us, there's a certain feeling of trappedness in these films, in which the models feel kind of stuck on a loop, almost like a video game. And gaming itself has never been a central core element of our practice. We've never made a video game. We don't do a lot of things that are necessarily super interactive, but I think the kind of themes and ideas present within gaming is something we play with all the time and is super inspiring. So as I said, this film's called Radiation, was made fully in Unreal. And within this work, Marine's otherworldly quasi-athletic figures inhabit a near-future Paris, profoundly transformed by the impacts of climate catastrophe. The campaign not only challenges traditional notions of fashion representation, but also serve as a commentary on the intersection of technology, sustainability, and human experience in an altered environment. So this next film, once again, another campaign for Marine Serre, and it was for the next season, and was kind of our first foray into live action filmmaking. Of course, this is animated, but the film is named after the collection and envisions a tribe of Serre's muses emerging from the underworld, adapting to survive in the transformed conditions of the Earth. Structured in 4 distinct segments, the film chronicles the evolution of four different tribes. The initial 2 segments feature entirely CGI characters, as you can see here, which then transition into live action for the latter 2 parts. This narrative progression not only illustrates the kind of merging of digital and physical realms, but also reflects the adaptive resilience required in an ever-changing environment.
So the question of artifice becoming profoundly unsettling has been a central theme in much of our work. And we've often been surprised by the common reaction from audiences who frequently describe our pieces as scary or frightening or even evil. Yet upon closer examination, there's nothing really explicitly violent or horrific about what we create. Instead, we're profoundly interested in exploring the idea of an artificial figure being too human, delving into the complexities that arise when the digital and human intersect. Since our work investigates these innate emotional responses, we're also fascinated by aesthetics that aim to manipulate emotions. We tend to seek out the most assaultive aspects of film and live performances, the elements that produce the most intensely visceral reactions, and draw inspiration from them. You'll notice a prevalence of strobe lights, distortion, motion blur, and other techniques like that in our work. These elements serve to disorient the viewer, throwing them off balance. To us, the visual maximalism primes the audience for an emotional and visceral reaction rather than a purely intellectual one.
This was a campaign we did for Didu about 2 years ago that, once again, kind of involved this hybrid between live action and CG characters. So this next thing is kind of a hero piece for us. It's a music video we did for Eve's Tumor for the song called Jackie, and it really kind of illustrates this maximalism that Claire was speaking about. You know, the video is an onslaught of color, using kind of every technique we could throw at it. It's super hallucinatory, and you know, it primarily uses deepfake to distort and contour Eve's and his co-star. So we'll let this play for a second. Anyways, you get the idea. These are some kind of clips from the deepfake process. And there's another one. So, you know, there was a lot of back and forth between their two faces throughout the video, and I'm pretty sure it was the first video to ever use deepfake.
First music video.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, but yeah. So kind of moving forward, digital characters carry with them a profound ontological crisis, existing as both something and nothing simultaneously. This tension exemplifies this instability behind their creation, the relationship between software and hardware, which was a foundational principle for us when we established actual objects. Borrowing from the work of Liam Young, we sought to understand the actual physicality of digital objects, whether they be a JPEG, MOV, or PDF. These digital objects are, in fact, physical, embedded onto rare earth metals, dug up from the ground, compacted into a hard drive. Thus, the studio's name is somewhat tongue-in-cheek, suggesting that digital objects are actual objects. So moving forward, this hardware-software dynamic is something we've been exploring more abstractly in our recent work, particularly as we incorporate traditional filmmaking tools like live action and photography. These images come from our development process while working with the Berlin Studios sub on Travis Scott's latest album cover. We created hundreds of hybrid CG, photo, and AI composites to build the final image of Travis. This was a deep exploration of digital facial expressions and skin texture, playing with that interstitial zone between something feeling physical but not too physical. And as you can see in the final image, we ultimately steered away from these exaggerated facial expressions as they all just felt a bit too uncanny.
The ontological crisis of digital or digitally augmented characters becomes even more interesting when we consider the fleeting nature of their existence, especially as we engage with them. There's a distinct lack of permanence when compared to traditional art forms like painting. We celebrate low resolution and like the idea that the image itself isn't truly the real thing, but a copy of it. The original becomes irrelevant, and what matters are the condition of its existence. Without these conditions, the original is inherently empty, invisible, and stale. So within our work, we like to think about compression and the idea of fabricated compression, imbuing these digital originals with an almost physical, contextual mess. Not to necessarily give them life, but rather to highlight their artifice or to reveal the cracks in their systems and to reveal their inherent deadness. So it's a constant process of reanimation. Next, we have 2 campaign films here that we did for Nike. One for their high-tech sports research lab and the other for Air Max that speak to these ideas about compression. The first film was focused on showcasing the brand's technical capabilities utilizing AI and other digital tools to create this almost dystopian CCTV vision of a Nike runner. Speaking about compression, this film uses a lot of blurs, pixelation, and other low-resolution aesthetics to highlight actually the opposite, i.e. something that's high-tech and high-resolution. And the second campaign we'd like to show from Nike is called Gen Air. So this film also utilizes low resolution and low quality aesthetics, but instead emphasizes advanced technology. It aims to elicit an emotional, what? No, but instead of emphasizing advanced technology, it aims to elicit an emotional response. The brief for this project was to elevate the cultural reference of Air Max, specifically for American Gen Zers. Our concept was to create a fake documentary that looked back on the events of 2023 as if the documentary was filmed in 2053 30 years later. We brought in 5 young Gen Z artists and invented a history for them, demonstrating their cultural impact. To connect this with audiences, we created the film with iPhone cameras, creating a more down-to-earth and real feeling for the campaign, as if all the footage was collected off of dusty 30-year-old hard drives.
Yeah, and these are interviews with the artists. They've got aged makeup on and everything from technically 30 years later.
For me, what connected me to another artist could have been that we played the same stage. But when you see photographs of us,
skip ahead a bit.
Bet you'll see
Climax.
I want to inside flip. We want to try things out. We want to see what feels good. We want to not know. We want to be shocked by the results.
I think the kids will figure it out. It's a year of innovation. It's a generation of innovation.
Where are the rules? Where's the restriction? Because I didn't see any.
It went from me just sitting in like a room making music on my phone to like being placed in like a whole different world.
We move forward in a positive direction. Collectively, we galvanize our spirits.
The future. That's the only thing I'm thinking of right now. Do you see what's going on right now? We really need to speed things up.
I always want to keep people on their toes.
If the world is ugly, because we make it that way. The world can be beautiful if we act that way.
If extravagant, colorful, detailed, ornate embroidery and gold and flashy and silver. It honestly really like advanced with.
Okay. So kind of going back to CGI, this next project was made for a live stream event for A.G. Cook, featuring an old and severely slowed down version of one of my songs. There's a hooded woman alone on some abandoned island, standing with a rack of speakers and a pair of CDJs. She's idle, exuding a severe sense of melancholy. There's a harrowing scene in Jonathan Glazer's film Under the Skin, where Scarlett Johansson finds a couple on the beach and watches them both violently drown, leaving their baby on the beach alone. We kind of thought that this character as that child 30 years later, still alone on the beach, now blasting bass music out of the ocean. Our woman is just as lost, and we can inject her with memories because we can see them on her. Moving to the next project. Memory and history for digital characters is also conditional. This is a music video we made for Shlomo's song Heaven Inc. that explores this idea, showing the life of a digital character. He was born with a permanent corpse face, that's the makeup, which makes him already sort of dead. We follow his life as he grows from a baby, a child, as he falls in love, to his final moments. He runs through a burning forest, which you'll see at the end of the video. Snippets from his life flashing before his eyes, his body strobing back and forth through the different stages. We placed the character in the video deliberately in real-world scenes, like shot with a real camera, juxtaposed against real people, further heightening this uncanny separation. It isn't until the ending, his quote-unquote death, where we find him in a fully digital environment, returning to his arguably true home.
Oops.
Come on. 1 second. I guess I can't have water.
You tried to have water?
I tried to put
I can give you water.
Anyone know what's... There we go. Okay. Let's try this again. So many of these concepts and themes culminated in a gallery show at 180 The Strand titled Vicky that we completed with our friend Case. Vicky was an interactive installation that consists of 8 vertical screens, each showing a different character. Audience could walk up to these characters and speak with them. Scanning a QR code, you see the little things next to the screens. Scanning a QR code in which the characters will turn to the camera and deliver a unique monologue. Vicky was an exercise in trying to build narrative while simultaneously letting the characters, be their uncanny selves, revealing their innate emotional and artificial qualities. So we have 3. I don't think we have enough time to play all 3, but I'll just we have 3 clips from this.
First one's Cat Kid.
Yeah.
I mostly like watching ghost stories, but not like those fake ones. Real stories. Even better, watching mediums who communicate with people who pass away. They talk to dead people who are going through them, not just regular dead people, like dead family members, stuff like that, but it's ghosts who haven't crossed.
Do the next one.
Wait a minute. Wait. Hold on. I'll tell you. 125 bill. 125 billion. It cost us 125 billion. Keep looking at me and I'm gonna curse you. Just keep looking. Wait. How you gonna walk it back? Huh? How's he gonna walk it back?
There is no Vicky. Not in the way you think. If there was, would they still be cramming these things in here? No, they'd pull them out. But that would mean everything grinds to a halt, and we can't have that, can we? Oh, it's a storm, all right. I'll give you that. But not the kind of storm you think. One storm after another, that's all this is, just one storm after another. Sending everybody every which way. Everybody's gonna be out there everywhere. And then what? There's no Vicky. I used to audit judges.
Okay.
I'm especially smiling because those last 2 characters were voiced by my parents, so I think they'd be... So let's see, the final project we'd like to show is a music video we made for Sega Bodega for his song Set Me Free, which was, like 5 months ago or so?
Yeah, a couple months ago.
He approached us with a vivid concept. He envisioned himself as a solitary oarsman in a rover, adrift in a tumultuous sea, caught in the throes of a violent storm. This song's part of an album that delves into the exploration of dreamscapes, so he wanted it to be extra dreamy. So we faced the challenge of working with a modest budget while aiming to achieve high-level VFX that are typically managed by teams much larger than Rick and I. So to address this constraint, we filmed Sega in a shallow pool where he rode in place, anchored in a controlled environment. And we filled the studio with fog and blue and green light, which created this kind of like thick atmospheric haze. And then I made a matte painting, which was just a still matte painting. And then we used AI to animate the matte painting and then place the footage of Sega within the matte painting for the wider shots. So altogether, this video used... and then we also added some water simulations with CG to kind of enhance the illusion of the raging ocean. So the final result that you're seeing here is a blend of live action, CGI, painting, AI, and a bunch of other, compositing techniques and editing techniques and all of that. So it's a pretty typical example of our use of mixed media and a hybridized approach.
So, finally bringing the conversation full circle, we'll speak briefly about the show tonight. The music is taken, as was already said, from my new album, which I think is coming out later this month, I think. Hopefully. So it features visuals developed by the both of us that seeks to explore a lot of the themes and ideas we've been talking about. The imagery in the show is developed with our whole toolbox, and it's really meant as this kind of, it's really intense. It's like this visual and audio overload, lots of strobe lights and fog and kind of...
Definitely strobe warning.
Yeah, but lots of really crazy bass. Anyways, it's good. It's a good show. But I think the whole show is kind of based on these characters, and we built probably 50 or 60 different characters that are kind of singing the music in the show. So some of them are more 2D and AI focused. Some of them are CG. Some of them are like a dog that's really abstract. But it's all dealing with this kind of the ideas of, as we said earlier, this dead figuration. I guess what we'll end on is this idea of electronic music and visuals, and I think for us, we're huge. We only listen to electronic music really, and often the kind of visual component of that is something that's super abstract and geometric, and I think for us, we're really interested in seeing how we compare sort of an abstract electronic song with a character and see what kind of emotions that can produce, and so that's kind of what the show is tonight. That's...
I think we have a few minutes for Q&A if anyone's got any, but that's about it.
Thank you very much. And I'm very much looking to see what you've made for tonight. So if anybody has any questions, now's the time. Well, I'll give you a minute to think about it. Okay.
Hi, great presentation, thank you. So I'm interested in how did you actually get in touch with this industry and manage to get to work on actual stuff that brings in money?
So we were super fortunate. I think there are many ways in, and we were lucky in that because Rick had been trying to become an electronic musician for how many years? 5 or 6, all through college and everything. He developed kind of a network within the electronic music. So he was already a community, but he was already friends with Chino Amobi, for instance. And so when we first started making our CGI work, which was just for ourselves, all of Rick's music friends started saying, "Hey, could you make me a video?" What, that kind of thing.
And I did it for free.
And so I was helping back then, but I was also teaching high school, and so Rick used to ask me how he wanted me to credit him, and I said, "Nah, don't worry about it, I don't need credit." And then once things started kind of taking off, I was like, "Uh-oh, better get some."
We had to start a company.
Yeah. But anyway, once we started making those music videos, which was all for free, we actually ended up splitting ways with our original partner that we founded the company with, Nick. He's moved on to other things, but in the beginning, Nick was just a very social person and had a massive network of people. So what really worked for us was that Rick and I made all of the visual art and all the work, and Nick went out there and kind of sold it. So he used his network of people and showed what we were the free work we'd been doing for Rick's music friends, and Nick sort of started just putting it out in front of people. So one of our very first paid projects was for Isamea French, who I don't know if you're familiar, but she has a makeup company, and she's also a creative director called Isamea. So she saw that Chino Amobi piece and then commissioned a piece for Dazed Beauty. And then it just sort of snowballed from there, and we also got lucky because...
But I mean, I think, for example, the first Marine Star campaign, we did that for free.
Yeah.
I think,
we worked 24/7. I mean, I was teaching, I was supporting Rick. We were barely making any money at first and just worked 7 days a week.
But I think it comes down to kind of just trying to take, any project you get offered, just do it. We did any random email we got, we just did everything, which then kind of just builds the network, and I think, it's...
Oh, one major piece of advice is that I think a lot of times young artists will put so much effort into one project that really becomes their baby, and they'll spend 1, 2, 3 years just trying to get this one project out. And one thing we did differently, which really served us, it's not for everyone, but it worked for us, it was really quantity over quality. We bash. If you look at our website, it doesn't even have every project we've done, but we do. I mean,
well, I think the point was it was yeah. What happens a lot, especially in school, is you kind of you have your thesis and you focus on this one thing. But I think for us, we weren't precious about any of the work, and so I think by making everything kind of a throwaway, you end up being able to actually...
Well, you get in front of more faces.
Get in front of more faces, but then you also, I think, actually learn more about the work because you're having to move at such a rapid pace as opposed to kind of siloing
It also helps your confidence because you are just moving through things so fast that you no longer have the worry of is this good or not because there's no time for it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I think we can squeeze one more in, so please. Yep.
Yeah, hello. Great presentation, yeah. I just wanted to ask, so how much time, just like, now when you're, all involved in this and you know your software and everything, there's a music video, like I saw they were about like 3-4 minutes around there, yeah? How long does especially the kid one with the corpse face, how long does that take? Like how many days? I don't know, days.
Well, that one took forever because we didn't know.
That was earlier on. That one now would take less time than it did back then.
Yeah, I think it's all depending on the project. I think what we did in the beginning was it was all learning on the job. So we would take on the job and have no idea how to.
Neither of us have any formal training in any of this.
Yeah, so we just had to be like, we got to figure it out, and then we'd have to teach ourselves on the project. Because I think now something like that would probably take us 2 to 4 weeks or so.
No, we could do that faster.
Yeah, we could. We could. But I mean, I think
at the time it was like 2 months.
Really, where timelines start to become a thing is working with clients. They have all their feedback rounds and stuff.
Which, because we've been doing it for a while, Rick's saying that with the clients have their feedback rounds, but it's also really beautiful. A lot of our best, like Maureen Sayre had tons of feedback rounds, but I think it really pushed the project to be better. And we also really love having collaborators. But at some point, you're like, enough with the feedback. It's done. But the answer kind of is that just based on our, if Rick and I sat down and worked on that video straight through, we could get it done in a week and a half. But if you include client feedback,
who knows how long? Wanting to make it good, maybe a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just ask something else? And how do you come up with these ideas? Because these music videos are crazy. I would not, they have such unconventional, but he runs through the forest, or like a burning forest in the end. How do you communicate also that to your clients? How does that go through?
Well, deck making is a whole process, but one thing is that he and I have been romantic partners as well as creative partners for 11 years. So the two of us have kind of a shared brain. So a lot of things I think that end up feeling crazy to the outside world kind of just...
We're like, oh yeah, just do that. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And I think there's something that's kind of funny about, because we're so in touch with each other, it kind of builds a force field of reassurance, if that makes sense. We're in kind of our own little echo chamber.
And I think the other thing too with trying to figure out how to come up with ideas is to kind of stay off of Pinterest and all the other kind of places. Like get off Instagram. You're not going to get an idea from there. I think where so many of our ideas come from, it's all kind of almost always the same places, and it's been these kind of things in art history or older.
We watch
films.
a lot of films.
Yeah, things like that we can kind of pull like being able to pick a lot of it's about picking an idea from something that isn't based in some CG thing or has something to do with the future or whatever, and then trying to contextualize that.
Yeah, we almost never draw anything from other CG work, for instance.
Yeah, don't reference Blade Runner, when you're idea, it's not going to work, Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Cool.
So,
thanks.
See you later then.
Yeah.
Thank you.